Gen Z is walking away from family and choosing money as its replacement, and they're doing whatever it takes to get it. The boomers call them selfish, but the reality is some of them feel like they don't have a choice. According to the CDC, birth rates in the United States have now fallen to the lowest point recorded in American history, with Gen Z having more than 50% fewer children than families did in the 1950s. We are witnessing a collapse of a generation as we speak. The idea that young people are too selfish or distracted to build something lasting ignores the deeper cause of what's really happening. This story starts earlier than most people think. Picture a teenager in 2019 lying in bed with a phone 6 inches from their face, watching a stranger go viral overnight. Not for being a good role model, not for building something that will last for decades, but for simply garnishing attention. That teenager that was lying in bed is 22 years old now. He's entered the workforce, and the lesson has manifested. A generation raised on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube grew up inside a machine that rewarded attention above almost everything else. Not character, not sacrifice, not the quiet, unglamorous work of building a family in a small apartment with a tight budget. Just attention. It's the engineered outcome of platforms designed to keep eyes on screens. When the most aspirational figures online built empires out of virality and personal branding, the message that settled into a generation coming of age was hard to ignore. Individual success is the only currency that actually protects you. So when Gen Z gets called out for having no morals, what that accusation keeps missing is that their morals were not erased. They were quietly replaced by metrics, by follower counts, income screenshots, and content that makes a normal 22-year-old in a starter apartment feel like they are failing at life. And here's where it gets more complicated. Because Gen Z did not just absorb the message that attention is currency, they absorbed something more raw. They absorbed the message that wealth is the only real floor, in a world that has shown them repeatedly that every other floor can give way. So they are chasing it hard and not always cleanly. This is the generation that watched teenagers turn crypto screenshots into millions and concluded that the old patient delayed gratification path was moving too slowly through a world on fire. Some are building real things, some are cutting corners, but underneath all of it is the same cold fear that without money, nothing else is possible. Not stability, and definitely not a family. So they're willing to do whatever it takes to get there. The financial numbers sitting underneath that desperation are not abstract. Data from Relio Labs shows that hiring inflows for Gen Z dropped by nearly 50% in just 3 years, with workers under 25 shrinking from 15% of the workforce in 2022 to less than 9% today. That means a generation already carrying student loan debt, averaging at $526 every single month, is walking into a job market that has quietly decided they are a liability. The dream that they were sold, go to college, build a career, start a family, stopped delivering somewhere between freshman orientation and reality. Tuition climbed. Degrees got screened out by algorithms before a human ever saw the resume. And the housing market, don't even get me started, drifted so far out of reach that only 26% of adult Gen Z members own a home today, while a generation that bought houses for the price of a used car talks about responsibility. Then comes the number that makes starting a family feel less like a choice and more like a trap. The median Gen Z income sits around $50,000 a year. The current annual cost of raising one child is roughly $23,000 a year, according to the U.S. Department of Agriculture. That means before a Gen Z parent pays rent, services a student loan, or buys groceries, nearly half their income is already gone. In a country where childcare cost exceeds rent in every single state, family formation stops being discouraging and starts being clarifying. For many of them, it's statistically irrational, and yet the loudest culture response keeps landing on the same word: selfish. That word deserves pressure because the generation swinging it the hardest is the same ones that walked into cheap mortgages, employer pensions, union wages, and affordable tuition. That's right, I'm talking about boomers. The baby boom was not a moral achievement, it was a material one. Soldiers came home to low interest loans, stable wages, and employer covered health care. Security produced children. That's not a coincidence. That's how it's always worked. Gen Z is recalculating because the security is gone. And the part of the story that almost never gets told is the recalculation might actually be evidence of stronger family values, not weaker ones. Teenage pregnancy is at the lowest point in recorded history. What that means is Gen Z is not stumbling into parenthood carelessly. They are watching the chaos that surrounds them, the financial pressure behind closed doors, the instability that's masked by reality, and making a quiet decision not to repeat it until they can do it right. That's respect for what family actually costs. So Gen Z is doing what survival logic demands, chasing money first by any means available. Because in the world they inherited, financial security is not something you build alongside a family. It's the price of admission before conversation even begins. If you wanted Gen Z to build families, what would you have given them? Homes they can afford, a job market that didn't treat them as expendable. Those things existed once, and they were allowed to disappear while the generation now demanding family values looked the other way. But Gen Z, they noticed. They're not giving up on family because they stopped caring. They're just waiting around for the life they were promised, doing whatever they have to do to afford it. And the longer it takes to reverse what's been done, the longer they'll wait and do whatever is necessary to climb to the top. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you like it and subscribe to my channel. And until then, I'll see you in the next one.